Hi. So I'm not the best at talking in general. I've been sheltered in my house for a good portion of my life. So bear with me, guys, here. But I wanted to make a video because I found out something that surprisingly isn't being told in the Christian community. Nobody's talking about this. Not a lot. Not a lot really from my feed. Maybe I'm just wrong. Maybe I'm just reading the wrong stuff. But basically, I made a deal with the devil. At least I did. So, what do I mean? I have a testimony that I'll tell you guys later in the next video, maybe. But basically, to summarize it all, it was just lust and brokenness and really horrible things. Keep in mind, I'm 16. This happened when I was 15 at the start of 2024. I am almost 17. I don't know if I already told you guys, but my name is Blake. Hello, guys, and this is my first time talking about my life. So, uh, I think a couple weeks ago. Yeah, probably a couple weeks ago. I don't have a good grasp on time, but basically, it was a little while ago. I was falling to lust, and I was struggling a lot. I kept getting tempted, and I fell into it a lot, a lot. See, uh, I may have been turned into a new creation by Christ, but there are just some attributes about sin that refused to go to the grave, just refused and kind of stayed with me. I would, even after I was saved, I would still lust, you know, in the bathroom. Yeah, kind of embarrassing. Actually, no, it's not embarrassing because I've started to loosen up talking about my life, my personal life, but so what going back to what I said, I made a deal with the devil. At least I did. What do I mean by that? And what do I mean by what's something Christians aren't talking about? Well, here's the thing that I discovered. The devil isn't fair. We all know that. But what if I told you that there are other ways to make deals and contracts with him without even realizing? Because I unknowingly made a deal with him, and it was connected to lust. I don't know when it happened. Probably when back when I was broken and very craving love that wasn't love. And it was still with me even after I was turned into a new creation until a couple weeks ago. I watched a video about this. I don't know his user, but he sits on a chair. Well, no, I was dumb to say. Sorry, no, I get. That was a weird detail to put in. So this guy is a Christian influencer. One of his eye, actually, if I look at myself from here, this eye is blind. I think it's kind of gray, but he reacts to other videos when it comes to demonic stuff. And the video I was watching with him was this girl talking about how lust works on a really, really deep spiritual level. See, things are complicated in the spiritual realm. Very complicated. Nothing about it is superficial, but what is superficial is how to get out of it, and that's Jesus Christ. Pretty simple. You just accept him. You turn into a new creation and follow him. But going back to the deal I made with the devil, I don't know what deal with it is, but the best thing I can think of was uh, the deal probably was like something like the temptations will be less painful and harder to resist, but you're more vulnerable to it. That's the best thing I can think of, but that's because I've been hit with four painfully strong temptations that genuinely hurt me on a spiritual level. Like I was suffering trying to hold on this that temptation. But somehow I managed to not fall into it. Why? Because I broke a deal with the devil. Because the video that guy was reacting to was basically when you ejaculate, it's not just you sinning against your own body. It's not just you disobeying God. It's not just a form of abomination. You are actively sacrificing your seed to a demonic altar. And when you do it in the bathroom, you're not alone doing it. You are doing it with a demon. You're doing it with a demonic spirit. Every time you do it, every time you touch yourself, there's a demon with you doing it with you. There is always a demon doing it with you. Because why? To take your seed. Because as men, we have been gifted with life creating or life giving our seed. And it's full of potential children, and that's life. And so demons take that and absorb it. They send succubuses and incubuses to tempt you so they can take your seed. And I don't think anything peculiar with the video talked about like deals or contracts, but something told me to go outside. And basically a couple weeks ago, I had just it's not I wouldn't put it as in I had enough. Like I have had enough of lust over and over. I've always been saying I've had enough, I want this to stop, but it never went away. But one time, a couple weeks ago or two, I think, I went outside, I looked at the ground because that's what saying is, and I told him, whatever contracts I have with you, whatever deals I have with you, whatever connection I have with you, or something along the lines of that, it's off. We're done. The contracts are done, all of them. I don't know what they are, but I'm breaking them in the name of Jesus Christ. I have the legal authority. There's something called spiritual legalism. So most of this is coming from my dad, but what didn't come from my dad or any other Christians is the fact that you make deals with the devil when you sin, or when you sin, you open a door to demons. I don't think sinning itself is making a deal, but I think it's when you're sinning and you do something very specific, you make a deal unknowingly. And I apparently made a deal before I was renewed. And when I broke the deal, for the first couple days, I never felt any lustful temptations. But when I was at my dad's, this is my grandma's, not my dad's, but my dad is a very spiritual, very mature and wise Christian. He has been through a lot like I have for most his entire life. And his transformation was just insane. I mean, actually, I've never seen him my entire life. I only saw him face to face when he was renewed, almost 3 years sober. He was into drugs. He was into stealing. The lowest life you can live, and he is just so wise. It's insane. He's given me a lot of lessons, a lot of demonstrations. He's been holding me accountable for a lot of things, and I'm grateful for that. That's one of the ways God saved me, is He sent me a girlfriend and my dad, who I've always craved for my entire life. I never had a real girlfriend, a real actual personal relationship until like 2024 September. I met my girlfriend first, and then later, before Christmas or before fall, or not fall, October, I met my dad. They both, God sent them because he couldn't reach me because of how low I was, but he reached me not by himself, not through messages, not through any motivations. No, that motivations had no effect on me. But he sent two people that I really needed, and that helped me get out of my depression, my very horrible depression. And then I started idolizing my girlfriend, so he took him away, or her away. He took her away, but I went to Jesus because of how painful it was. Going back to what I was talking about. What was I talking about? Um, I think I was talking about, like, my dad giving me advice. We were talking about spiritual legalism. I am a very reluctant Christian, or I was, but I'm slowly going from reluctant to freely a Christian. I'm still growing. I'm only like 16. It's only been like an entire year since I transformed, and still a teenager, still a lot of this and that. But there's a thing called spiritual legalism in the spiritual world, and I don't have much info on it. I'd have to talk to my dad about it. Again, I'm not a preacher. I'm not. I'm not wise, at least to a certain extent. I mean, I'm a little wise, but not wise enough to be called wise. I'm not even close. I'm just a student of Jesus, a son of Jesus, a friend of Jesus, and a lamb of Jesus. I'll say that proudly. I am the Son of God. Not in a Jesus way, of course, but I don't know why I brought up spiritual legalism. I still have little to know about it, but there, all you need to know is that things don't just happen in the physical world. There's a whole new world in the spiritual world. See, there's a veil between the real world, the physical world, and the spiritual world. And a lot of things happen in the spiritual world. A lot. Maybe even more than the physical world. And you can make contracts with demons and the devil. And apparently I made one. And when I broke that deal, I keep cutting off into different directions because my introduction is kind of messy, I know. But when I broke the deal with him, for the first couple days, I was never tempted with lust. I was fine. But then when I was at my dad's house, at at one night, I suddenly felt a very, very strong temptation. And this was the weakest temptation compared to the other temptations that would come afterwards. But this temptation was probably one of the strongest temptations I felt so far. And knowing me, before I broke the deal, I would have fallen into it. But to my shock, I did not fall into it. It's insane. It's insane. I don't know how I didn't fall into it, but I kept focusing on Jesus. I kept trying to imagine throwing that sin at Jesus' feet. I kept trying to think about Jesus. Sometimes I wasn't, sometimes I was. Still growing. And then at the morning, at my dad's work, he works at Appliances for Less and stuff. So I go with him at work every day when there's work. And I felt another strong temptation. This temptation was even stronger than the last one. And again, I didn't fall into it. I don't know how, but I did. And then when I came back home, when my dad dropped me off, I felt another very strong temptation. I was on a bed and I was holding a blanket around me. I was shaking. I was being triggered a lot because I was scrolling and scrolling. And of course, I found a couple temptations on there. And I genuinely just. It was spiritually painful, if that makes sense. It wasn't painful, but it felt like it was. I don't know how to explain it, but I was shaking and stuff. And then, again, I didn't fall into it. And then in the this morning, I woke up and I was very tired, so I just stayed in bed. And then when I woke up again, still in bed, I felt another strong temptation. The strongest one I felt in my entire life. Somehow stronger than the 3 or 4 other very strong temptations. And again, I couldn't get out of bed. I was rubbing my legs together, and I almost fell into it. So close. I was so close to falling into it. So close. Until one of my cats jumped on my bed. See, I have 2 cats. Not this one. These are stray cats. But there's 2 cats in the house. One of them is Buttercup, a very young cat that we got from